Mersey, just above where Vauxhall's car plant and the industrial areas surrounding that are, and come in a mile at most. Follow the coast round, down through Ellesmere Port, through Elton, past Helsby, that's Paul's neck of the woods. By the way, Paul, I'll give you a clip round the ear. Just to be clear, the only people who are paying me tonight to be here are the Personnel and Payroll Department of the House of Commons. Consider your ear well and truly clipped. So, all right, it is. So go round Helsby, go round Frodsham, come up by. We used to come round. We used to call it Casnakelna when I was a youngster, and when Western Point, and it's Ineos now, up to the Green Bridge at the top. That 13 or 14 mile stretch of coastline takes up 5% of the whole of the UK's energy usage in just 13 miles. So we are a very heavy intensive industry. And we have to bring people with us. And I listened with interest and passion, actually, with some of the stuff that Don was just saying about some of these companies. And look, I used to be a trade unionist, and I used to do international solidarity organising. I've organised shipbreakers in India and in Bangladesh. I've organised miners in Brazil. I've stood on a picket line for a dispute in Canada in -27. Although you only had to be out for 5 minutes. They took it in turns to go out because it was so cold. So I've done that myself. But there are real people working in these jobs, and they live in this borough. And we can't say to them, I'll tell you what, sorry, you're off, because we're closing down your industry. And the other thing is that we can't actually pay for the industries that for the technologies that we want to go for, if we haven't got the companies that are paying the taxes, or in the case of some of our oil companies at the moment, not paying the taxes, but we'll move on about that. A windfall tax would be nice, but that's not what we're here to discuss today. But if the companies aren't paying the taxes and if the people aren't employed, we ain't going to get there anyway. And closing down industry sounds good, but it's down to you. If you're proposing closing down industry, you go and knock on the doors of the individuals and tell them, sorry, chum, you're out of a job. Go and drive a taxi. There are real people here. But there are also real expertise and technical and technical experts which have grown up in the cluster around this energy coast that we call it. Some of them work for UNIS and in places like Thornton. And because of those clusters, we have developed expertise that we can develop these technologies with and make money out of them. And actually, I don't think there's a problem making money out of them. We don't do enough making money out of green technologies. We used to be a leader in wind technology and in wind turbine technology, and we're not anymore. There's a place in Isle of Wight that sold it, place in Hull sold it. Germans are very good at it, we're not. We invented it pretty much, we've got more wind than Germany. And so we should be streaming ahead in these green energy industries and leading the world. And this is going to give us the possibility to be perhaps a world leader. It might not work. You never know. It might not work. I think we've had some really persuasive stuff tonight. I think when it's Professor Seaborn talking about transmission and so on, it has to be used in the right way. I thought that was quite a persuasive argument about that he's made about storage and whether storage isn't right. So it has to be used in the right way, and it could be that domestic use is wrong. It could be there's Eunice has just asked before about transport and buses and delivery lorries. Perhaps that might work, perhaps that won't. But we won't know unless we try it. And we can't stand here shivering, worrying about the future, as we all are, but not willing to take the first step because we don't know that it's going to be absolutely perfect. And at some point we have to make that first step and start to get hold of that technology. I always think about Swansea Bay Tidal Barrage. It would have taken more energy probably to build in the first instance than we might have got out of it. But it was the first of its kind, and we have loads of tide here, and we could have become a world leader in tidal energy, and we gave up the chance of that, simply because the initial economics weren't right. So we've got to think forward to what we can do well, what we can make money with, what we can export and help other people to achieve, and make that first step. And Don made an interesting point before about how do we educate young people. I have to tell you that youngsters don't have a problem with any of this. They absolutely understand the need for change. I did Parliament Week in November, so I did about 5 or 6 different primary schools in Chester, and there was only one subject that they wanted to talk about. But there was only one subject, and it was the environment. Partly that's because of the COP26 coming up, and they've all been talking about it, but they all absolutely bought into it. The real problem, the real people, is us. Well, not you, not me, the people in this room, but the people of our age and our demographic, the people who probably have the economic power at the moment to make a change, but don't want to change, like the way they live, don't want to get out their cars, don't want to eat less meat, that's me, as you can see, who perhaps feel a little bit overwhelmed by the challenge that the climate crisis is presenting to us, or perhaps want to do something but don't know how they can do it. And there is a real educational job within there. But simply saying that we're going to close down what we're doing, or simply saying that we can't go for that because it isn't the ideal solution, isn't enough. Somebody has to make the first step, and by chance, we have the industry here and the technique and the know-how, the technology, to help us make that first step. And in that way, I think we could possibly lead the country and lead the world. So let's grab that chance and bring everyone with us.
Thank you very much, Chris. I knew you weren't going to stick to your couple of minutes. Anyway, Eunice.
Thanks, Chris. The government on Wednesday in the Levelling Up white paper talked about more money for R&D. Will you be lobbying them for some of that to come to this area to check up on HyNet and see whether it's really, using the latest research and development, and whether we can do more?
Absolutely, and of course that in itself generates more research funds, more private sector investment in universities and in industry as well. So it develops its momentum of its own. I'm also working with the local enterprise partnership on possibly bidding for some money jointly with Rolls-Royce, Qatar, and somebody else on energy technology proposals. We need to probably have a chat about that at some point, Eunice, because what I've said to the local enterprise partnership is that you need to be leading it. So, but anyways, that's news to you, Eunice. We'll see if we can't put something together. But we have the expertise here in your university, in the surrounding universities, at Thornton, but also in the industry, and people work well together. The ideas themselves generate, and I'm really looking forward to it. One other thing I would say about the government is, it looked at one point during probably in the autumn, or just before summer, that it was going to be a beauty contest, and that we were going to be up against some of those areas that we saw on the map earlier, up against Immingham and Humberside, up against the North East and Teesside. And actually, we've got a fair share. I was really pleased with the settlement that we got. And there's real consensus cross-party on this that actually the whole of the UK can benefit.
Any questions? I think we should stop calling it a levelling up white paper. My question is, in terms of skills growth, there was mention of significant amounts of money going into postgraduate studies. And I was just wondering when we'll find out how much is coming to this area. Well, we can find out anyway.
I'll write to you. See, that just goes to show, you see, me and Matt, we're good mates, but we don't coordinate. So this is all spontaneous.
Okay, I think we've already overrun. So yes, big round of applause for Chris. Thank you very much. Okay, so hopefully our aim of becoming more informed, more balanced, and I think a key point that a couple of speakers made is that so much of of the debate around hydrogen, HyNet in itself is incredibly polarised, and I don't think that benefits anyone in terms of progression and where we need to be. Hopefully, we come away from this more informed about the areas that hydrogen can be used, the areas that HyNet has some strong potentials, and the areas that it shouldn't be used, and the disadvantages that are associated with it. Yeah. A big thank you to all of our speakers once again. Thank you to my two fellow panellists. Thank you to Martin, who's been doing the chat. And also a thank you to Storyhouse for hosting such an event. And thank you to you all for coming along and contributing such fantastic questions. Thank you very much. Bye.
Rob, do you want to have a swing in the spoonful?